for the first time, we've built an interface that allows AI to see what you see and hear what you hear, take in the context in the physical world. You're telling your friend about something you read in the group chat yesterday, and as you tell them, the fact checker agent spins up proactively and tells you, oh, actually, that's bullshit, you shouldn't share it with your friends, right? And I think that smart glasses, because they put you into the real world, they kind of put your head up and your hands free, might be one of the first steps we take to actually become a little bit more human.
Cayden is the founder and CEO of Mentra, the first AI smart glasses company with an app store. Cayden and his team built not just the glasses, but the entire open source operating system around them to empower developers. With their newest pair, Mentra Live, you can record and stream videos from your point of view, give yourself subtitles in real life, and much, much more. Cayden's team has been crushing it, getting backed by Amazon, Toyota, the founder of Android, etc. But even guys like Cayden could use an occasional break.
Hey, thanks for coming out, man.
Thanks, Theo.
Do you want to do the honors?
All right, sure.
But yeah, I guess your quick intro, you've been working on smart glasses for, I think, 6 or 7 years now. You've worked on like agents, BCI, AI wearables across like MIT and a bunch of other labs and stuff. How did you get into smart glasses so early?
Yeah, when I first got into smart glasses was, I guess back in my undergrad in 2018, I was taking notes on my phone one day, and I don't even know what idea I was putting down, but I realized all at once, kind of felt like an epiphany to me, was that the note that I was taking on my phone was actually not something separate from me, but really an extension to my brain. Like my brain is, this information processing system. There's information, there's algorithms, and I used the note in my phone as like an offloaded memory that I could then later pull up and process again in my brain. And I kind of thought that it seemed like all of the story of technology, since information technology that is, was a similar story of extending our brains. And I kind of had this flash, I just kind of saw this story of the human story, where 500 million years ago we're this animal brain that's just purely instinctual, that only develops from one generation to another, from one organism to another. And then 50 million years ago, all of a sudden the neocortex shows up, which is like a layer on top of the animal brain, like literally layers on top for higher order processing that we're using right now to have this conversation. And then 5,000 years ago, information technology shows up, in the form of writing to start, where all of a sudden we've taken our cognition that's 2 layers deep and added a 3rd layer where we put it in the world around us. We extend our thinking to the world around us. And it seems so inevitable to me that we take our phone out of our pocket 200 times a day just to get a display in front of your eyes, just to get photons into your eyes and speakers to your ears. And meanwhile, like half the world is already wearing glasses, billions of people, and they give your eyes immediate access to a display and the speakers access to your ears, and then take the sensors that are designed to capture the world around us that's in our phone and place them in a way that it captures the world around us. So it just seemed like, is the most important thing I could possibly work on is the potential of kind of improving what it means to be human, like augmenting our capabilities. But I wasn't gonna, phones were already a thing, and what's the next phase of that is obviously smart glasses. So I became convinced then that they become our dominant computing interface about 8 years ago, and I've just been glasses pilled since then, working on it.
Ooh, nice, man.
All right.
So how did you come to glasses as like the form factor? I know we have a couple different ones. Like we have obviously the pen, which I think Apple is now working more on, so that'll come out in maybe, who knows, like 2050 or something. There's like, I guess the more ambient AI of like OpenAI with that kind of like speaker type device you're working on. Like, so why glasses? Why are you kind of betting big there?
Well, I guess at the high level, considering we're talking, HCI, human computer interaction level, it's glasses because the interface, what's an interface, right? It's a connection between computers and our brains. Or maybe just more accurate now to say AI and our brains. And we want to maximize the bandwidth of that interface, the amount of communication going in and out. And the highest bandwidth input to our brain right now is the visual system. And so it doesn't matter if you put a pin on or you have something like on the table or whatever, you're gonna want access to visual information all the time. That's why we have a screen. That's the most important part of your phone. If you slowly took away almost everything from your phone, you'd probably be left with like just the screen. And glasses are the only form factor that you can do that with, right? Maybe like contact lenses, sure, but glasses are just barely becoming possible now in terms of hardware. They're just possible now, and the contacts are not. So I would say it's the visual system is why it matters, and because it's already an accepted form factor, right? Glasses were invented 800 years ago. They went mainstream in terms of like half the world population, starting in the 1920s, when they got lightweight and started spreading. And people are used to glasses in the real world as opposed to something else that they're not used to. It fits into their routine, and half the world's already wearing glasses, so you can just upgrade something they already have.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so I think you got a pair on now yourself. Why don't you, I guess, tell us a bit about what's going on? I know you just had like a recent launch and stuff. What's the latest?
Well, right now we're shipping Mentra Live. So these are camera smart glasses that have an open source SDK. People have all kinds of apps that they want to be able to build on top of camera glasses, and there's never before been any camera glasses you could buy that you could build an app for, either if you're a company or if you're an individual software developer or if you're an individual user who wants to use it. So, we are always focused on moving the operating system forward. So in a lot of ways to us, Mentra Live is really kind of almost like a reference design. It's almost kind of like, the platform where we can open source all the code that powers it and provide some of the, the basic apps that you need, and then provide that to the world to be able to build apps on top of. And so it's also, this launch is about, like, what am I most excited about people actually using these for? Because, as much as we've sold them to businesses and we've sold them to devs and they have, real use cases they're doing, which are like, those are mostly around, quality control inspection and what we kind of call physical AI co-pilots, or AI co-pilots for the real world. So maybe we'll take a look at that for a sec. Like, the world's economy is split into kind of two buckets: knowledge work and physical labor. Knowledge work, you're sitting on a computer, and physical labor, you're moving something or you're moving yourself around. And 30% of the world's economy is knowledge work. That's pretty big, and that's what ChatGPT and Claude and all these things have been disrupting, right? Is what you do when you're on a computer. But 70% of the world's economy is still physical labor tied to physical locations, and physical space. And for the first time, we've built an interface that allows AI to see what you see and hear what you hear, take in the context in the physical world, and then give you information that you need in the moment, and let people programmatically control that interface, right? And so we're just seeing so many companies who are building apps on our smart glasses that are like, help a HVAC technician to better diagnose the problem of the heater, or help somebody, it's their first day on the job at a greenhouse, and they don't know, how to adjust the humidity, but the AI sees the plant is dying and tells them to change things in this way. It's people just on an assembly line, while they're doing quality control, either just filming it to remember it all is one thing, but also running AI in the loop and detecting if there's an issue to take something off the line. Or there's a car mechanic that goes and looks under the car, and instead of taking 10 minutes to go find a tablet and pull up the manual, they just ask the AI that takes a picture of what they're looking at, knows what car is there, and then answers in their ears. So that's one big thing there's been a big push. There's also developers who are building, everyone goes straight for AI vision, right? The multimodal models are very good right now. Mm-hmm. And so, we've been like a fun thing that people have been doing, everyone's connecting it to, to OpenClaw and just like, taking a picture of something and spinning off agents. These are kind of fun things. And then on the consumer side, what's been interesting, but we've had a couple kind of consumer groups become very interesting that are buying Mentra Live right now. One is streamers, right? People who want to live stream, because before there's never any pair of smart glasses that could let you live stream anywhere. Anything on the market can't live stream except the Meta Ray-Ban. Some of them can live stream, but they can only live stream to Instagram or Facebook, and a lot of streamers aren't on there. And then also for notes, right? Like, people are using Granola and stuff like Pocket and Plod AI note takers quite a lot now, but they don't have a visual component. right? And so with smart glasses, now all of a sudden it's taking pictures of the whiteboard, it's taking pictures of the photo somebody showed you on your phone, it's taking pictures of the graph in the presentation that you had with the company you met today, and that's all added into your AI notes, and then you can chat with the notes, chat with your day. Those are a couple, of course, one thing that I find is really fun is just taking videos, which I mean, that's one of the most basic use cases, but when you can really get your ego-centric video, and you send it to someone, and they can kind of experience what it was like to be you for a second.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Do you want to actually maybe like take a video now, and then
I'm down.
Splice it into the into the recording to show people?
All right, we are recording. Okay.
I'll know what it. Yeah, I'll know what it feels like to be you to hit a ball in. So I think maybe let's have you sync one here.
I think I'm gonna disrupt the cameras.
They have to see me fail to hit this on POV.
All right, well, you see the camera.
They know how it's like to be both of us.
Yeah.
We both missed quite a few here. But yeah, no, I think, and the coolest part is that because it's open source, I think you might be Stripes actually. I cannot even remember.
I'm Stripes.
Okay,
I was happy that you put it away.
Well, I just hit one of yours in then, so
Thanks
I
for
lose
that.
the turn. Yeah, but I was saying that I think the coolest part is that it's open source. People can obviously build whatever apps they want.
Yep.
Because first of all, how many apps do you have live right now? And then number two, what are some of the ones you're most excited about? Like you spoke about obviously note taking and live streaming and things like that. But I saw there's some other interesting ones, like I think poker probability or it was called. There was chess cheater, which I personally would love. So yeah, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah. So there's the one camp of like what's on our store, and then there's the camp of what have been built by the developer community. In terms of the developer community, there's been many hundreds of apps that have been made, and they span at hackathons and for fun cool things. People have made stuff like poker cheater app that watch it tries to look at other people's facial expressions and look at the probabilities of your hand and figure out and tell you what you should do in your ear. There's people who wrote a 411 type app that would you walking through the streets of San Francisco, you see something gross on the ground and you can report it, and so it gets cleaned up by the city.
Just like a Waze for just normal like walking around. And
well, more so that it reports it to the city and they come and pick it up. Right? You can just automatically do it from like clicking on your glasses.
Oh, super cool.
The ones that I'm excited about are the ones that are actually like available on our store for people to download officially. So in terms of display glasses, it's captions, proactive AI, and translation are our top three apps. So captions for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, like if they can't hear what's happening in a conversation, now they can get subtitles overlaid on their vision and they can become part of the conversation again. And there's 400 million people in the world who have disabling hearing loss, right? So it's just a massive potential.
Yep.
And it's one of those, it's a killer app because it's hard to make smart glasses. Smart glasses are still early. If you try to make smart glasses that do a whole bunch of things, you end up with something like what big tech is putting out, which is very heavy, very power intensive, very ugly glasses. If you want to go lightweight, you have minimal specs, right? And so your specs need to be able to be good enough for the use case. And if you have captions, all you need is a few words floating over someone's head, and that's very easy, and you can make super light glasses that do that. Same with like translation and proactive AI. Proactive AI is what I'm excited about. The AI listens in continuously during your conversation and then tries to help you out in the moment. So you're in class and the professor says, oh, hey everybody, let's turn to chapter 6 on ASR. We'll continue from last week. You don't know what ASR stands for? Automated speech recognition. The definition is overlaid on your vision right in that moment. Maybe you're walking out of that class and you're telling your friend about something you read in the group chat yesterday. And as you tell them, the fact checker agent spins up proactively and tells you, oh, actually, that's bullshit. You shouldn't share with your friends, right? Then you walk into the hallway. This can continue, right? Maybe you tell your friend, oh, hey, you want to go for a run tomorrow? And they say, yeah. How about the park? And then it looks and sees it's actually going to rain that hour you're suggesting the run, and it suggests maybe you go to the gym instead. Like this proactivity, where the AI doesn't wait for you to ask it what to do, I think is nascent. Is very early, but is going to be really a killer app on glasses. And some of these apps that we see now are showing the early signs of how much value that can be. And I've even seen it in my own conversations, debating with someone about the air pollution levels in these two different countries and which was worse. And the statistician agent spun up and got data from the World Health Organization about those two countries' AQI, air quality index, and overlaid it on my vision. Now we have a better conversation that's more factual.
Yeah, and that's super interesting, and that's like kind of the holy grail, I think, of AI in terms of like embodying human intent and doing that in a helpful and proactive way. How do you think about that though, in terms of measuring like what's a helpful thing to do? How do you make sure like you thread the line between like you're flooding them with information versus you're giving them like the pieces that they want? Like how do you kind of embody intent in that way?
That's a thing that I think will be quite different between individual people, and some people are it's like ChatGPT. Like go read, I don't know, my aunt's GPT or someone on the street's GPT and then my GPT, and I think there's probably very different ways of using it at different speeds and different kind of complexity. And I think the exact same thing will be true of your proactive AI. So you'll tune it over time. You'll add prompts, you'll add in agents. You're gonna tune all of that, but also you want it to be ambiently tuned to you. Like if you use the insight, then it definitely was a good one. If, eventually what would be great is you could just sense from the individual. If we're talking about the future, like you have some, even if it's as simple as some kind of wrist or finger or glasses like PPG, some type of biosensor that you could tell if it was helpful or not. Eventually a brain sensor that can tell if it's helpful. But in the meantime, you'll do things like reinforcement learning. You might have a ring, you just say good or bad. You might nod. Maybe later after a conversation, you can go and give thumbs up and thumbs downs to some of the insights that it gave you. And it will be able to train pretty quickly. And also it'll update over time because it shouldn't give me, like when someone else says ASR now to me, it shouldn't define ASR because I just told you that story about my glasses telling me what ASR stands for. So the AI should know that I know that, right? So it'll very quickly understand who you are and the speed that you run at and then the things that you already know so that it'll work with you in the best way possible.
Yeah, not to mention I just just drilled one of your balls on accident.
Well,
and you return the
got
favor.
you back.
I guess you can say there's like two philosophies for AI wearables, right? There's like the ambient AI of OpenAI where it's like always on, always listening, gets the most amount of context, but obviously is the most invasive. And I guess the more smart glasses native approach, or I think this is also used for like the AirPod form factor, is it's more of like assisted AI, or I think I've heard it being called like portal AI, where you kind of like turn it on or engage it when necessary, right? It gets less context about you, but you engage it when necessary, and it's a little more private also. How do you think about like threading?
In terms of privacy, it's going to be up to each individual user what they do. But in terms of the value, it's definitely more on the ambient side than anything, right? We're not going to be telling our computers every single time we want it to do something. It's going to be able to do things that we didn't even realize it could do to help us. We design our OS with that in mind, where one of the things about phones, phone operating systems, was they kind of did expect you to have one app running at a time. You could have multiple alive at a time, but you open one, like your Uber app, you open it up, you call your car, you're done, you close it, and it's over. It's this explicit interaction. Mm-hmm. But with smart glasses, like I was telling that story about, it defines ASR on your vision, and then you're telling your friend about something, it gives you a fact checker. Maybe you walk out of the classroom, and there's one of the, you're a student in a foreign country, one of the cleaners starts talking in a different language. Proactively should start up the translation app, right? And overlay. And then now you're walking out of class, and you have a date in 15 minutes, and the Uber app should spin up and call you a car and just tell you on your glasses, mm-hmm. right? That's a suite of different services provided by potentially different companies, and they all need to be able to consistently have access to your context. Right? They need to share, multiple apps and multiple agents need to share the sensors. Right? I've got one camera, one microphone, one speaker, one display, pretty much, and I need multiple AIs to be able to access those. And it's up to myself as a user and the AI OS that I'm running, that I've prompted and trained to represent me, to decide when those apps get access to that data and when they don't, and when they get access to run and show me things and when they don't. That wasn't the plan.
I was hoping you'd scratch eventually because I wanted to get a chance to do this.
Oh,
I want to read you one of your quotes because you have a lot of like cool quotes on your LinkedIn and see what was kind of the thought there.
Okay.
So,
hope I can defend this one.
I like to say I make cyborgs, but actually we're already cyborgs, and I might be cyborg exhibit A. What does that mean?
Well, I think that we augment ourselves with technology, right? It's obvious that everyone here and everyone in the modern world is already massively augmented by technology, right? We communicate with technology, we experience the world with technology, we navigate with technology. Like everything we do is with technology, right? It's almost like we already know we're cyborgs. Like cyborg is just this combination of humans and machines, or humans and computers. And maybe it's one of the crazier terms, or the ones that's like I think I said that many years ago. That's faded a little bit because it has a bit more to do with like maybe you replace your arm with a machine.
Yeah.
And I'm more interested in enhancing our brains with computers, and not even replacing parts of your brain, but actually extending it with an exocortex. And I think that the way I've lived, I've kind of lived as a cyborg for a long time, where say in my undergrad, I was working on cyborg technologies like smart glasses, and I wanted to travel. Actually, I wanted to like see more of the world. I hadn't seen anything, and I needed a lab in order to work if I was going to work on hardware. And so I couldn't go like backpack Europe or something with a laptop. And so I tried to figure out what I could do, and I realized I could get like I found out I could get an RV and renovate it. I pulled out the kitchen and made it a software station with a VR headset coming down from the ceiling, and I took out the second bedroom in the back and made it like a hardware station with 2 3D printers and 650 watts of solar and a computer and everything. And then I really tried to make that my thought process here was kind of like, what if I could make the infrastructure around me into a wearable? Like we've kind of taken all this I can walk around with a backpack with like full of food, and my laptop and a network connection, and I've kind of made all that or put it on slide it on my nose. We've made all of those things wearable, kind of extensions to ourselves. But what about the infrastructure? What about like our electricity and water and fridge and where we sleep and how we move around? And I thought maybe I could put all of that into a single wearable, which is almost like a shell around me, which is this RV hacker lab, and sort of become that vehicle. And so I lived in there for a couple stints, where I drove from Toronto to Vancouver to Washington to MIT to South Carolina over some time. And I felt like it did feel like in some ways really an extension to myself. And I think that it is really interesting that as the singularity rolls around, we are going to be augmenting our capabilities in new ways, right? People who were deaf will now be able to hear. People who were blind may now be able to see. We can improve our intelligence 1,000-fold in the cloud, and we can communicate with each other in new ways. So I'm down to represent the augmentation.
Awesome, man. Well, I mean, if that's what being like a cyborg entails, I want to join that camp also.
All right, welcome.
It's a really exciting future, and I understand smart glasses are kind of. Let me grab the cue ball. Smart glasses are kind of one of the first steps there, right? They're already socially acceptable, right? A lot of people already wear them, and then I guess the field of like BCI is a really interesting one also that you spent some time on, because that is kind of the opposite, right? You have this like very clunky headset or something to like capture neural impulses and then turn that into intent. And I guess BCI is brain-computer interface, just for those that don't know. Yeah, that's super interesting also. What are your thoughts there? Like that's something you want to kind of, spend more time in down the road, or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, well, it's all part of the same continuum. We almost called Mentra Interface 4, we almost called it. And that's because I see there being these kind of just paradigms of personal computing. You had like your desktop, laptop, mobile phone, smart glasses, and then brain-computer interface. And we're kind of in that fourth paradigm shift. And so, when you say clunky, blah, 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 like it's not going to be clunky when people adopt it. It's going to be so small that it can fit just inside, like in between your brain and your skull. And you're not going to wear, some big thing on your head very likely. I think that, it's going to take some time to develop, but it will develop very quickly because it's already pretty advanced. We can see things like, when I was at this at the MIT neurostimulation something, they had a neurotechnology meetup, and there's one guy who had 3 Utah arrays, I think, on his premotor cortex. So that's a Utah array is like a high density electrode array, and they were able to fully decode his speech from his motor area, of course, so he had to kind of say it in his head. But that's enabling silent speech already from someone who's had that in there for, it works for years. So is that ready for 100 million people? Definitely not. But it will be the way that we continue to advance, where smartphones go to smart glasses and you introduce proactivity.
Yep.
That's become so central. AI is weaved through the entire OS. Every app is AI. They're all communicating with each other. There's probably one interface that you have that, one AI you talk to a lot that talks to all the other AIs, but it's kind of like weaved in between and it's proactive.
Yep.
And then when BCIs happen, that's going to still be proactive, and we're going to port Mentra OS to work on BCIs. But what we'll do, we'll go past just proactivity, and we'll go into meaning space. We'll go into a semantic interface, right? From explicit to proactive to semantic, where you no longer need to say exactly what you think. You don't have to use language anymore. It's a post-language interface where you can just think your meaning, and it will extract that directly from your brain, in meaning space. And you'll have, a specialized encoder decoder for your specific brain, and you'll be able to communicate with other people, for example, at much higher bandwidth than ever before, because we'll actually be able to read out their mentalese. Maybe that's at 1,000 words a second from their brain, and then inject that into your brain. But after doing basically decoding their signals into text, 1,000 words a second, and then encoding that text back into your neural representation. And so the rate of communication could change, the rate of learning could change, the way we communicate with each other could change, and I think it's going to be awesome. I think we'll also enhance ourselves, but we're also going to have to, I think, sort of like not get lost in it, because you can, and every science fiction novel has pointed out that you can, wirehead. You can hook up an electrode to your pleasure sensor and press go forever. But obviously we don't think that that's meaningful. So I think every time you get to the end of this story, it really does become like, why are we doing anything? Of course.
Yeah.
And it should be definitely more than just to consume mindless information. We should be, producers and having, experiencing real life. So I think that we are going to see kind of a new way of looking at how we work with tech. And I think that smart glasses, because they put you into the real world, they kind of put your head up and your hands free, might be one of the first steps we take to actually become a little bit more human.
Yeah. That's like, if you hit that, I'd be unbelievably impressed. I mean, that's a pretty damn good effort.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
Not bad. The platform, so that the OEM also gets paid. Mm-hmm. And then when it is available, it is just like before, which the OEMs don't want. Nice. Ooh. All right, GG.
Good game, man. I guess, do you have any closing thoughts or things you want to plug, or I don't know, otherwise?
Who's the audience?
Founders, probably founders, mainly more technical people, but still some general public.
Well, I think that standing here in 2026, one would be wise to go look at when unicorns are born. Unicorns are born when there are paradigm shifts in personal computing, right? The laptops, the internet kind of happen together, but then mobile phones, social. And now we've got AI and smart glasses happening at the same time. And I think that the next generation of unicorns are probably going to be, many of them will be built on smart glasses, right? So I think it's just a massive opportunity. There's so many apps worth like hundreds of billions, many of them in revenue from especially B2B, that no one has touched because there's never been programmable smart glasses before.
Yep.
And now we have them. And we cannot build all those apps.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend, if you are like building a business, especially a B2B business, you can you deploy AI copilots in the real world. Like this is over 2 times the scale of like the deployment potential of ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. We know what they're doing right now, right? And the hardware is now here and the OS is now here. So I think it's a big opportunity.
Exciting stuff, man. Hey, thanks
Cool.
for coming on.
All right, thanks Theo.